The ultimatum. Dr. Lydia Cross stepped through the massive airlock doors of Nexus Prime, the largest space station in known space. Her simple gray diplomatic suit seemed out of place among the gleaming corridors filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. As Earth's chief ambassador, she had walked these halls many times before, but today felt different. Today, the very survival of humanity hung in the balance. The station buzzed with unusual activity. Alien species that rarely spoke to each other were huddled in heated conversations. Military vessels from 3 major galactic powers surrounded the station like predators circling wounded prey. The Vorthak Empire's massive destroyers cast shadows over smaller diplomatic ships. The crystalline vessels of the Keltharian Federation sparkled like deadly jewels against the void, and the bioships of the Zephyrian Collective pulsed with organic light, their living hulls breathing in the darkness of space. Lydia knew why they were all here. Humanity had grown too large, too quickly. In just 2 centuries since first contact, human colonies had spread to over 300 worlds. They had formed trade partnerships with smaller species that the major powers had ignored. Worst of all, from the aliens' perspective, humans had a disturbing habit of turning barren worlds into thriving colonies through sheer determination and innovation. The council chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, designed to accommodate hundreds of different species. The ceiling stretched up into darkness, while gravity fields allowed flying species to hover at their preferred heights. Environmental suits maintained perfect atmospheric conditions for each delegation, though the air still carried the mixed scents of a dozen different worlds. Ambassador Kethvar of the Vorthak Empire rose first. His species stood nearly 3 meters tall, with faux arms and skin like polished obsidian. When he spoke, his voice resonated with the authority of a civilization that had conquered 1,000 worlds. The Vorthak Empire had ruled the galactic eastern spiral for over 5,000 years, and they did not tolerate challenges to their supremacy. Dr. Cross, Kethvar began, his tone formal, but carrying an unmistakable threat. Humanity's expansion must end. Your species has established colonies in 17 systems that fall within traditional Vorthak territory. This cannot continue. From another section of the chamber, High Counselor Varanash of the Keltharian Federation added her voice. The Keltharians were beings of living crystal, their bodies refracting light in beautiful but alien patterns. They communicated through harmonic resonances that translator devices converted into audible speech. "The Federation agrees," Varanash sang, her crystalline form shifting colors from blue to deep red. "Human adaptability poses a threat to galactic stability. Your species learns too quickly, adapts too readily. You take technologies from multiple civilizations and somehow make them work together in ways we never imagined possible." The final voice came from the Zephyrian Collective, though calling it a voice was inaccurate. The collective was a hive mind species, and their representative was merely a conduit for billions of connected consciousness. When they spoke, it was with the weight of an entire civilization. "Humanity spreads like wildfire," the collective droned, their bioship representative pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "Small species flock to human worlds seeking protection. Trade routes shift to accommodate human commerce. The natural order becomes disrupted. This cannot be permitted." Lydia listened carefully to each accusation, her expression remaining calm despite the growing tension in the chamber. She had expected this moment for months, ever since human intelligence services detected massive alien fleet movements toward the galactic core. 3 civilizations that barely tolerated each other had united for one purpose: to stop humanity's expansion. "I understand your concerns," Lydia replied, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "However, humanity has followed all established galactic laws regarding colonization. We have settled only unclaimed worlds or those specifically offered to us through legal trade agreements." Kethvar's 4 arms moved in what humans had learned was a gesture of dismissal. "Legal technicalities are irrelevant. Your species threatens the balance of power that has maintained galactic peace for millennia. We offer you this choice: voluntarily relocate all human colonies to your original solar system, or face the combined military might of our three civilizations. The chamber fell silent. Even the usual background hum of life support systems seemed to pause. Lydia felt the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. Every human colony, every family that had built new lives among the stars, every child born under alien suns, all of it hung on her next words. But Lydia Cross had not risen to become Earth's chief diplomat by backing down from impossible situations. She had spent her entire career preparing for moments like this, studying not just alien cultures and languages, but also certain classified files that very few humans had ever seen, files that contained humanity's deepest secrets. Ambassador Kethvar, High Counselor Varanash, Collective Representative, she addressed each delegation formally. I appreciate your directness in presenting this ultimatum. However, I'm afraid there are certain factors you may not have considered in making this demand. What factors could possibly matter? Kethvar demanded. Your entire military consists of exploration vessels and light frigates. You have no weapons capable of threatening even our smallest destroyer. Lydia reached into her diplomatic pouch and withdrew a small communication device, a simple black rectangle that looked entirely unremarkable. However, every security scanner in the chamber immediately focused on it. The device was broadcasting on frequencies that their sensors couldn't identify, using encryption that their computers couldn't break. You're correct that our current visible fleet is modest, Lydia acknowledged. What you may not realize is that humanity has never shown you our true capabilities. We learned early in our galactic journey that appearing weak often provides better protection than appearing strong. She pressed a single button on the device and spoke clearly. Protocol Lazarus. Authorization Cross Delta 779. Full activation across all sectors. The effect was immediate. Throughout the chamber, alien communications officers began receiving urgent reports. Their home fleets were detecting massive energy signatures from previously dead systems. Worlds that had shown no signs of life for thousands of years were suddenly broadcasting on military frequencies. Most disturbing of all, these signals were clearly of human origin. High Counselor Varanash's crystalline form began shifting rapidly between colors, a sign of extreme agitation. What have you done? Our sensors are detecting enormous power sources throughout human space, sources that were not there yesterday. They were always there, Lydia explained calmly. You simply weren't looking in the right places. Humanity has a saying, the best place to hide something is in plain sight. For the past 2 centuries, while you watched our small exploration fleets and modest colony ships, we were very carefully ensuring that certain older assets remained unnoticed. The collective's representative pulsed with increasing brightness. Impossible! Our intelligence networks monitor all human activities. We would have detected any military buildup of significant scale. Lydia smiled, a human expression that most aliens found either amusing or unsettling, depending on the context. Today, it definitely leaned toward unsettling. Your intelligence networks are indeed impressive, she conceded. They successfully monitored everything we wanted you to see. However, humanity has been in this galaxy far longer than our official first contact records indicate, much longer. The chamber erupted in alarmed voices as the implications of her words sank in. If humanity had been hiding their true military capabilities, if they had been in the galaxy longer than anyone knew, then everything the major powers thought they understood about the balance of galactic power was wrong. Kethvar's obsidian skin seemed to darken further. You are claiming that humanity has been deceiving the entire galactic community for centuries, that your primitive species has somehow been conducting covert operations under our very sensors? Not primitive, Lydia corrected gently, and not really deception, more like selective disclosure. You see, gentlemen, humanity didn't actually originate on the world you call Earth. That's simply where our most recent civilization chose to rebuild after the last great galactic conflict. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the station's life support system seemed to hold their breath. The last great galactic conflict, Varanash finally managed to harmonize, ended over 12,000 years ago. No records exist of the participants. The civilizations involved were destroyed so completely that even their names were lost. Lydia nodded gravely. Not destroyed, hidden, waiting, preparing for the day when the galaxy might know them again. She looked directly at each alien representative in turn. That day appears to have arrived. Throughout the chamber, communication devices were buzzing with increasingly frantic reports. Ancient installations were powering up across hundreds of systems. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as asteroids were revealing themselves. Most shocking of all, massive ships, larger than anything in current galactic fleets, were beginning to emerge from what had appeared to be empty space. The three alien powers had come to Nexus Prime, expecting to intimidate a young species into submission. Instead, they were learning that they had just threatened descendants of the most powerful military force in galactic history, a force that had been quietly watching, waiting, and protecting the galaxy from the shadows for over 10 millennia. Lydia looked at the shocked faces surrounding her and felt a mixture of sadness and determination. Humanity had hoped to continue their peaceful existence, quietly shepherding younger species and maintaining the delicate balance of galactic civilization. But if they were forced to reveal their true nature to protect innocent lives, then so be it. Ambassadors, she said formally, I strongly suggest you contact your respective governments and inform them that any military action against human colonies will be considered an act of war against the Terran hegemony, a government that, I should mention, has been operating continuously for the past 12,000 years. The ancient fleet was awakening, and the galaxy would never be the same. The awakening. Captain Rex Morrison had been surveying the barren system of Kepler 442 for 3 weeks when the message arrived. His exploration vessel, the Curiosity, was a typical human ship, small, efficient, and designed more for scientific research than combat. Rex had spent the better part of his career mapping dead systems like this one, cataloging asteroid fields, and analyzing the remnants of long-extinct civilizations. The system appeared completely lifeless. 3 rocky planets orbited a dying red star, their surfaces scarred by millennia of cosmic bombardment. Rex had found nothing unusual during his surveys, just the standard collection of minerals and frozen gases that filled most empty systems. He was preparing to file his final report when his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, called out from her station. Captain, I'm receiving a priority transmission. It's using emergency protocols I've never seen before. Rex moved to the communications console and listened as an automated voice filled the bridge. Protocol Lazarus activated. All hegemony assets report to designated awakening coordinates. Genetic verification required. This is not a drill. The message included coordinates that placed them just 3 astronomical units from their current position, practically next door in interstellar terms. Rex checked his star charts, but they showed nothing at those coordinates except empty space. However, something about the message felt familiar, like a half-remembered dream from childhood. Lieutenant Kim, run a deep scan of those coordinates, full spectrum analysis. Aye, Captain. Scanning now. Sarah's fingers danced across her console as the ship's sensors focused on the seemingly empty region of space. Within moments, her expression changed from routine boredom to complete shock. Sir, you need to see this. I'm detecting massive artificial structure. They're using some kind of stealth technology that makes them nearly invisible to standard sensors. Rex felt his pulse quicken. On screen, the main view screen shimmered and adjusted, penetrating layers of sophisticated camouflage technology. What they saw defied belief. A massive structure hung in the void, not a space station, but something that looked like a combination of shipyard, fortress, and city. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers, its surface covered in docking bays, manufacturing facilities, and what appeared to be residential sections. But the structure itself wasn't the most shocking part. Attached to its docking arms were ships, hundreds of them, and these weren't the small exploration vessels that made up humanity's known fleet. These were warships on a scale that dwarfed anything Rex had ever seen. The smallest of them was larger than the most massive alien dreadnoughts. The largest looked like they could serve as mobile planets. "Captain," Sarah whispered, "I'm receiving another transmission. This one specifically addressed to you." A new voice came through the speakers, warm and oddly familiar. "Captain Morrison, this is Shipyard Commander Elena Vasquez. Your genetic markers identify you as a descendant of the Morrison Line, Fleet Command Division. Please dock at Bay 94 for briefing and assignment. Welcome to Bastion Station." Rex stared at the view screen, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. His family had been farmers on Mars for 3 generations. His grandfather had been a simple agricultural engineer. There was no military tradition in his lineage, at least none that anyone had ever mentioned. "Sir?" Sarah prompted gently. "Your orders?" Rex took a deep breath. Whatever was happening, it was clearly bigger than anything he could understand from his current position. The only way to get answers was to follow the coordinate S. Set course for Bay 94. And Sarah? Record everything. I have a feeling we're about to learn something that will change how we see the entire galaxy. As the Curiosity approached the hidden station, more details became visible. The technology was clearly human in origin, but far more advanced than anything in their current civilization. The ship designs followed familiar aesthetic principles, but incorporated materials and engineering concepts that seemed impossibly sophisticated. Bay 94 opened to receive them, and Rex was surprised to see that the docking procedures were automated systems that knew exactly how to handle his ship. Everything worked perfectly, as if the Curiosity had been designed specifically to interface with this ancient station. Commander Elena Vasquez met them at the airlock. She appeared to be in her 50s, with graying hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Her uniform was recognizably human military, but the design was unlike anything Rex had seen in current fleet documentation. "Captain Morrison," she said, extending her hand in greeting. "I apologize for the secrecy, but circumstances have forced us to accelerate the awakening process. Please, follow me. There's much you need to understand, and very little time to explain it." As they walked through the station's corridors, Rex was amazed by what he saw. Thousands of people moved through the halls with practiced efficiency, all wearing variations of Elena's unfamiliar uniform. The technology around them was clearly human, but centuries ahead of anything he knew existed. "Commander Vasquez," Rex finally managed to ask, "what is this place? How long has it been here? And why doesn't anyone know about it?" Elena led them into a briefing room with a massive holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Red dots marked the locations of similar hidden installations. Hundreds of them, scattered throughout human space and beyond. "Bastion Station has been here for 8,000 years, Captain. It's one of 12 primary shipyards maintained by the Terran hegemony. As for why you didn't know about it..." She paused, studying his face carefully. "Tell me, what do you know about your family history, specifically your great-great-grandfather, Admiral Marcus Morrison?" Rex shook his head. "I've never heard that name. My family records only go back to my great-grandfather, who was a Mars colonist." Elena smiled sadly. "That's because the Morrison family, like thousands of others, chose to forget their heritage after the Great Concealment. It was felt that the galaxy needed time to develop without the influence of the old powers. Your great-great-grandfather was one of the architects of that decision." The holographic display changed, showing a massive fleet battle from millennia past. Rex watched ships the size of small moons engage in combat that tore apart entire solar systems. 12,000 years ago, Captain, the galaxy was consumed by a war that nearly destroyed all intelligent life. The surviving civilizations, led by humanity, made a difficult decision. They would withdraw from galactic politics, allowing younger species to develop naturally while secretly maintaining the infrastructure necessary to protect them if another crisis arose. Rex stared at the display. "Are you saying that that we've been the secret guardians of the galaxy for 12,000 years?" "Not just guardians," Elena corrected. "Shepherds. We've been quietly guiding development, preventing conflicts from escalating beyond manageable levels, and ensuring that no single species becomes powerful enough to threaten galactic civilization. The three powers that just demanded our submission, we've been subtly limiting their expansion for centuries." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on dozens of worlds. Ancient installations were powering up, revealing technologies that defied current scientific understanding. Ships that had been sleeping in hidden bases for millennia were awakening their crews and beginning system checks. On a world designated only as Archive Station 7, Admiral Sarah Chen opened her eyes for the first time in 300 years. The cryogenic systems that had preserved her were designed with technology far beyond current human capabilities. As consciousness returned, so did the weight of her responsibilities. Sarah had volunteered for extended sleep rotation, allowing her to serve as a bridge between different eras of human development. She was old enough to remember when the hegemony made the decision to withdraw from galactic politics, but young enough to understand the current state of galactic civilization. Her aide, Commander James Park, was waiting as she stepped out of the cryogenic chamber. Like everyone else on Archive Station 7, he had been awakened by Protocol Lazarus. "Admiral, what's the situation?" Sarah asked, accepting the warm robe he offered. "Three major galactic powers have issued an ultimatum, demanding humanity's submission," James reported. "Ambassador Cross activated Protocol Lazarus 37 minutes ago. All hegemony assets are coming online across the galaxy." Sarah nodded grimly. She had hoped this day would never come, but the hegemony had prepared for every contingency. "Fleet status?" "The Eternal Fleet is powering up now. Estimated time to full operational capacity, 6 hours. All primary dreadnoughts are responding to awakening protocols." Sarah moved to the station's observation deck and looked out at what had once been empty space. Now, massive shapes were materializing as stealth systems deactivated. The Eternal Fleet, entity's primary military force, consisted of ships that had been built using the accumulated knowledge of 12,000 years of technological development. The flagship, humanity's pride, stretched for 50 kilometers from bow to stern. It wasn't just a warship. It was a mobile civilization, capable of supporting millions of people and manufacturing entire fleets if necessary. Around it, hundreds of smaller vessels formed a formation that could have conquered entire star systems with ease. But the most important aspect of the Eternal Fleet wasn't its overwhelming firepower. It was what it represented, proof that humanity had never stopped evolving, never stopped preparing, never stopped caring about the welfare of all galactic life. Back on Nexus Prime, the three alien powers were receiving reports that defied their understanding of reality. Fleet commanders who had considered humanity a minor nuisance were now staring at sensor readings that showed human military assets outnumbering their own forces by factors of hundreds to one. Ambassador Kethvar was the first to break the stunned silence in the council chamber. "This is impossible. Our intelligence services have monitored human space for 2 centuries. We would have detected military installations of this scale." Dr. Lydia Cross smiled with genuine sympathy. "Your intelligence services are indeed excellent. They successfully detected everything we allowed them to detect. However, they were looking for primitive military installations. They weren't scanning for the quantum phase shipyards we've been using for 8 millennia. High Counselor Vera Nash's crystalline form had shifted to a deep purple, the Keltharian color of profound concern. If humanity possesses this level of technology, why maintain the pretense of being a developing species? Why allow us to believe we were the dominant powers in the galaxy? Because, Lydia explained patiently, the galaxy needed to grow up without our interference. After the last Great War, we learned that imposing peace through superior force only leads to resentment and eventual rebellion. It was better to allow younger civilizations to find their own paths, while we quietly prevented the worst disasters. The collective's representative pulsed with rapid, agitated patterns. How many conflicts has humanity secretly influenced? How many times have you manipulated galactic politics without our knowledge? Lydia consulted a datapad. Over the past 2,000 years, we've prevented 47 potential extinction-level conflicts, redirected 32 asteroid impacts that would have destroyed inhabited worlds, and provided anonymous aid during 16 natural disasters that threatened multiple species. We've also been quietly maintaining the trade routes that keep your three civilizations' economies stable. The implications hit the alien representatives like physical blows. Everything they thought they knew about galactic politics was based on incomplete information. Humanity hadn't been a rising power trying to establish itself. They had been the invisible hand maintaining the balance of civilization itself. "What happens now?" Kethvar asked quietly. For the first time since entering the chamber, his voice carried no trace of arrogance or threat. Lydia's expression grew serious. "That depends entirely on your next actions. Humanity has spent 12,000 years proving that we prefer peace to war, cooperation to conquest. We've revealed our true nature only because the alternative was allowing innocent human colonies to be destroyed by misunderstanding." She stood and walked to the chamber's great viewport, looking out at the assembled alien fleets that suddenly seemed very small compared to what they had awakened. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity never stopped being its protectors. The question is whether that revelation brings us together as allies, or forces us to resume the role of guardians over species that cannot be trusted with the power they possess. The chamber fell silent as the weight of 12,000 years of hidden history settled over the assembled representatives. The galaxy had just rediscovered its ancient shepherds, and nothing would ever be the same again.